Hey, welcome back to the Listen Up Girl podcast, where I unpack LGBTQ plus news for you around news, politics, and pop culture. I'm your host, Zach Randles-Friedman, but before we get started with today's news, I wanted to ask if you could please complete my audience survey. This helps me learn more about you and what you like most about this show and my other show, Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay. I have lots of podcast ideas, and before I start on something new or come up with new show content, it would really help me just understand my audience, who and what they think about the shows. So thank you so much. It takes less than 10 minutes. In the description of this podcast is a link directly to the survey. So thanks for filling it out. So for today, we are talking about marriage equality could be back in the Supreme Court's crosshairs. Queer representation breaks down, new ground in Hollywood, and local elections keep rewriting history. We have a lot of stories today, so let's get into it. I talk about this almost every news cycle for the past couple of weeks, but the Supreme Court this Friday, behind closed doors, the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court will discuss whether to reopen a name that many thought belonged to history, Kim Davis. You will remember her, the Kentucky clerk who refused to issue marriage license to same-sex couples after same-sex marriage was made legal nationwide. Her stance turned into a conservative folk hero and landed her in jail for contempt of court. Now, a decade later, Davis is back asking the court to wipe out the damages she owes 2 couples she denied, and more alarmingly, to reconsider Obergefell itself. Officially, the question is technical. Can she personally liable for emotional distress damages? But LGBTQ plus advocates say the strategy is anything but narrow. The advocates spoke with Obergefell plaintiff Jim Obergefell and GLAAD's lawyers Josh Rovinger, who warned that the conservatives are using a narrow case to wedge open a larger door. With a 6-3 conservative majority and a track record that already reversed Roe versus Wade, many fear the court could take the bait. Even if it refuses, the signal is clear. Hard-won rights can always be challenged again, reported by the advocate. I think we find out on Monday the 10th if they're taking her court case, and hopefully they will not, and we will go from there. Next, Jonathan Bailey crowned People's Most Sexiest Man Alive. If you need something to smile about, here it is. Bridgerton and fellow Traveler star Jonathan Bailey has been named People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive 2025, the first openly gay man ever to receive the title. Bailey told People he found out mid-performance of Shakespeare's Richard II and hasn't stopped giggling since. He said the recognition still feels surreal. At the start of the year, I was doing heavy tragedy, not exactly comedy. Bailey's career has soared since he stole scenes as Anthony Bridgerton and later melted hearts in fellow Travelers. While his portrayal of love between men during the McCarthy era earned Emmy buzz, he'll next appear in Wicked for Good. For LGBTQ plus audiences, the moment is bigger than a glossy magazine spread. It's a mainstream validation. A gay man leading being named Sexiest Man Alive without caveats says a lot about visibility, desirability, and progress, reported by People Magazine. And I think everybody probably knows this story, but Zohran Mamdani has become New York City's new mayor. In May, Mamdani joined a trans community town hall with advocates. He has been a huge part of the LGBTQ plus community, and he even went to a couple of gay bars on Halloween to make sure that his supporters knew, hey, I'm here for you. He plans to expand gender-affirming healthcare across city hospitals, create permanent office of the LGBTQIA plus affairs, and strengthen sanctuary protections for trans asylum seekers. Endorsements read like a pride parade. Cynthia Nixon, Bowen Laverne Cox, Ben Platt, Lord, India Moore, all cheering him on. Mamdani's campaign shows that LGBTQ issues can be central to urban politics, not just afterthought. That's reported by The Advocate. So congratulations to him. We need some LGBTQ plus representation, or people representing us, I should say. There we go from the election. For Democratic governors make history. Election night brought 2 milestones in New Jersey. Kelly won the governor's race, becoming the first woman to hold office and promising to strengthen anti-discrimination laws and school protections for queer youth. Her opponent opposed trans-inclusive curriculum mandates. Further south, Abigail Spanberger flipped Virginia blue again, defeating Winsome Earl Sears, a candidate who opposed same-sex marriage and gender-affirming care. Victory's speech called for a Virginia where everyone's rights are protected, no exceptions. Together, the win marks a rare double for progressives in traditionally moderate states. Reinforcing equality still polls better than hate. That was reported by BBC and CNN. Next, in the UK, it moves to criminalize violent pornography. Across the Atlantic, Britain is confronting the dark side of online porn. Under the new crime and policing bill, the UK will ban pornography that shows strangulation or choking, making it a priority offense on par with terrorism and child exploitation. Science and Technology Secretary Liz Kendall told the BBC, viewing and sharing this kind of material is vile and dangerous. It fuels a culture of violence and abuse. A YoungGov poll found 27% of men aged 18 to 29 had choked a partner during sex, and 33% of women that age says it's happened to them. Advocates link the behavior to violent imagery normalized online. Gabby Burton, who led a government review, said, just look at the front pages of mainstream porn sites. You'll see degrading content, particularly violent toward women. The legislation could give law enforcement new power to demand swift takedowns, reported by BBC. Next, Sarah McBride reflects on her darkest day in Congress. Representative Sarah McBride, America's first openly transgender member of Congress, told The Advocate that on November 20th, 2024, remains the darkest day of her career. That's when House Representative Mike Johnson banned trans people from using restrooms aligned with their gender identity in House-controlled spaces. The high of orientation was met with probably the deepest low of my life outside of losing my husband to cancer, McBride said. Critics urged defiance, but she complied, explaining her goal was to preserve her influence. If I let them make me the issue, then the actual issues, healthcare, housing, jobs, get lost. Her restraint, she says, is strategy. Her presence as Congress is proof that trans voices belong in the room, even when rules are rigged against them, reported by The Advocate. Next, the Pentagon policy pushes out transgender troops. A new 7-page Pentagon memorandum titled Prioritizing Military Excellence and Readiness quietly codifies the removal of transgender Americans from military service. Issued under the Trump administration, it enforces 2 executive orders from early 2025. One to restore biological truth across federal policy, and another to prioritize readiness. The directive allows commanders to overrule separation boards that previously protected trans service members and requires that anyone attending hearings to follow grooming standards tied to their sex assigned at birth. Advocates called its discrimination dressed up as discipline, warning that decorated troops could now be forced out simply for existing. Reported by Reuters and the Washington Post. I cannot believe how much time that this government spends on transgender. It's just like they spend so much time, they waste so much money. It's insane to me. It's like they're so scared of what? What are you scared of? Next, Jonathan Bennett talks a Mean Girls reunion, which I am very excited about. Almost 22 years after Mean Girls debuted, Jonathan Bennett, who played Aaron Samuels, said he'd love to return for a sequel but sees no reason to change his character's sexuality. Appearing on I've Never Said This Before podcast, said Aaron will still be straight. I wouldn't rewrite his story just because I'm gay. He also revealed that 99% of the cast wants to reunite. In the group chat, we talk about it. Everyone's grown up, but the love is still there. Since 2004, Jonathan Bennett, Damien, and Rajev have all come out publicly, making the movie a quietly trailblazing moment for queer actors before Hollywood is ready to celebrate them. And the source of that was I've Never Said That Before podcast, so I'll have to listen to that podcast. And that is my news for today on Wednesday, November the 5th. I will be back tomorrow with more news. There was so much news today. Please be sure to continue to listen. And if you have not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. And also, please share with your friends. Thanks so much for listening. And I'll be back tomorrow again with more LGBTQ plus news.